The president's behavior was shameful and wrong. His personal interests do not take precedence over those of this great nation. The president has the responsibility to uphold the integrity and the honor of the office, not just for himself, but for all future presidents. Degrading the office by actions or even name-calling weakens it for future presidents, and it weakens our country.
So that was Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, a Republican, criticizing in probably as strong words as Mitt Romney also, the actions of the president. But, and it's a big but, she still did not vote to have witnesses. Obviously, she will not vote to convict this president. Now, a few minutes ago, Andrew spoke with a colleague of hers, Senator Chris Van Hollen. He's a Democrat from Maryland. And Andrew and he discussed impeachment as well as the state of our union.
Senator, with impeachment likely coming to an end tomorrow, if you knew back at the beginning of the process how it was going to end, how it was going to play out, would you still have gone through it?
Yes, I think the House of Representatives would still have had to proceed with impeachment, and they did so very reluctantly. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, others did not respond to earlier calls for impeachment. But when the President of the United States got on the phone with the foreign leader and as part of an overall scheme, effectively extorted them by withholding vital U.S. military assistance to Ukraine in exchange for getting them to help him in his re-election effort, I think the House had no choice. That is such an obvious abuse of power that the House had to proceed, and the Senate, once it receives an impeachment from the House, has a constitutional duty to act.
There have been some criticisms of your party through this process, both the delay in sending the articles from the House to the Senate. Certainly the president's defense team has been haranguing Democrats for not pursuing the subpoenas all the way through. And there's a possibility that some Democrats may defect in one or two of the final votes tomorrow. How would you critique the party's performance during all this? Will it hurt if a Joe Manchin or a Doug Jones votes against one of the articles?
Well, let me just say, every senator has to decide how he or she will vote on this important constitutional question. And I really think that is something that is beyond the politics. Obviously, there are a mix of politics surrounding this whole thing, but ultimately people just have to make the decision that they think is right under the Constitution of the United States. With respect to subpoenas, the House did issue lots of subpoenas. We saw an unprecedented degree of obstruction from the Trump administration. They didn't provide a single document or provide a single witness. That's never happened before. The witnesses who did appear in the House proceedings did so against the direct instructions of the President of the United States because they wanted to do their duty. They were subpoenaed. But we've seen a massive amount of obstruction and cover-up. And, clearly we saw that continue in the United States Senate. I think the Senate is also guilty of failure to do its constitutional duty by failing to call witnesses or get documents.
Finally, Senator, it is State of the Union night. When I saw or heard about your guest as a journalist, it moved me. Tell us about who your guest is going to be and why you decided to invite her.
Well, my guest is somebody who lost her beloved husband at the terrible shooting at the Gazette newspapers in Annapolis when 5 beautiful souls were gunned down. And she has really devoted herself to try to make sure that that kind of tragedy doesn't happen to other American families. So I'm really pleased she'll be joining me. One of the big issues that we're facing here in the United States Senate is whether or not to vote on a bill that passed the House of Representatives for universal criminal background checks, just making sure that before somebody gets a gun, we make sure that they're not going to pose a danger and a risk to the community, overwhelmingly supported by the American people. But we're hoping that we can shine a spotlight on that issue.
Well, Senator Van Hollen, on behalf of journalists, thank you for inviting her, and on behalf of our viewers, thanks for the time.
Well, thank you very much. Take care.
All right, Andrew, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to New Hampshire, to Nashua next. We have Keith on the line. So, Keith, What is the state of our union? How do you feel? The president's going to talk to us in about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. Is the state of the union strong? Are you concerned? How do you feel?
I'm real concerned, Richard. I think the president's getting away with it, and he's gonna crow tonight. He's gonna be absolutely wild about it. What I think, I saw Joe Biden today. He did a campaign stop in Nashua. He looked and sounded good, looked and sounded strong. Had a couple hecklers. He dealt with them well. One thing I think is the president's going to ride him about Hunter Biden. Every time he does, I think Joe Biden's got to come back and say, well, what about Ivanka Trump? What about and all those copyrights she got in China? What about Don and Eric and what kind of money they're making off this? The president himself enriching himself at Mar-a-Lago and all his properties.
Well, thank you for the call, Keith. I appreciate it. Obviously, you mentioned Joe Biden. We also have another element tonight. Finally, we got the returns out of Iowa, and Joe Biden had a disappointing fourth place finish at the point I went on air with about 2/3 of the precincts reporting. So what and who will the Democrats from both the Message and the Messenger choose to go up against this president now that it looks like he'll escape impeachment come the fall? It's going to be fascinating how this plays out, but not a good night in Iowa last night, but we'll see how New Hampshire goes next for Joe Biden. Let's go next to Maureen. She's calling us from Lake Shawnee in New Jersey. Maureen, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Hi. I just wanted to call in and say, in all my years, and I'm up there in age, I have never, ever come across politics the way it is today, or this nation as divided as this depraved degenerate in the White House has caused us to be. People think he's going to be concerned about the history books. He lives minute to minute, and the next thing to the next thing. And as far as the quislings that are sitting there on the Senate, that among all of them don't even come out with one strong backbone to stand up against this man. As I said earlier to your representative, he will drag plumbers, construction workers, engineers that built his buildings into court to get paid, but he will privately pay porn stars to shut them up and keep them out of court. The man has caused havoc over in the Middle East. He has annihilated us and made us distrustful in our foreign policies, friends we've had since the Second World War. This man has no idea what he's doing except for his own personal aggrandment, and I'm shocked that we cannot muster something. And this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the little we know. Can we only guess at what we don't know this man has done? This man has to go. He needs to be put out of office. And I'm shocked at Murkowski coming up there. She said he used strong words. The hell he did. He betrayed this country is what he did. And he opened the door for attacks on Joe Biden and his son. This needs to stop. And I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I digress.
Hey, Maureen, I can't top that, so I'm not going to try. I'm glad I gave you a form to get it off your chest. I take it, Maureen not voting for Trump. All right. Great call, though. And we're going to get to more terrific calls after the break. We also got more guests as well. Again, this is State of the Union night here, but so much else is in the backdrop as the president prepares to address the nation. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.